So we're going to continue on with day number 2. This will be spring 2. The second tutorial day, we're going to spend a lot more time on. The first day we only spent about 20 minutes, and half of that was just me explaining things about the game. A lot of this will be similar, but we're going to spend a lot more in-game time doing things rather than just going through the menus. This is the first time that we wake up at the regular time. Now, in the controlled environment, they do not allow us to stay up past, too late where we're going to sleep in the morning. But when time starts passing, we do, in fact, have the capability to stay out fairly late before we pass out. If we stay out too late, even if we get to bed on time, we will sleep in the next morning. We'll just lose that time in the morning that we normally would be using on our farm. Also, if you pass out, you will both sleep in and have stamina and issues where it's going to be harder to increase your stamina. You're not going to start off with as much stamina. So it's best to try to get to bed on time. That's not an issue though during the tutorial. So in this situation, if you remembered to put your fertilizer away in the storage as was recommended yesterday, he will give you some free fertilizer, which is what I did, but this is the tutorial for the fertilizer. There are different kinds of fertilizer if you want to change the season for a particular field or a particular plot. When you have seasonal fertilizer, it's only good for one crop, and you have to keep reapplying it as it goes away. So it's just cheaper, less expensive to plant the crops that you want to be seasonally influenced and try to get into a hybrid by planting them in the area that keeps that season throughout the year. So in Lechtenbury, that's spring. Once we open up the other towns, each one will have a specific season with only one that will change the seasons as they naturally happen. So this is an introduction to the food and the stamina idea without actually enabling the stamina. When you run out of stamina, you can increase it by eating food. Your bonus depends on the type of food that you eat. If the ingredients are raw or cooked, you get more of a bonus if they're cooked. Even if it's a small bump, that small bump can mean a lot. So we're gathering a bunch of mushrooms, and on their own, they don't give us a lot of stamina. But when you're in the mine and you're trying to get down past level 11 so that you can finally open up the warp point in the mine, or look for silver, for example, that is going to save you in the early game. Now, Neil is one of my favorite characters. He is one of the romanceable characters. I don't know, maybe it's a guy who likes to cook for me, but like I mentioned before, I'm not really into the romancing side of it, so you guys can decide who we're going to romance toward the end game. I would like to open up everything before we get into more of the romancing aspect of the game, and that's partially so that we've got all of the bachelors and bachelorettes opened up. We've got all of the event areas available, that type of thing. The constant with the Harvest Moon games is as you work to improve the area that you start in, it starts to improve the larger world setting. And in this one that's more of an open world, you can see that dynamic really play out throughout the game. So this type of game is based on the more hard work that you put in, the better it lifts up everybody around you. And you get rewarded for helping others, which I think is one reason why we come to love these Harvest Moon games. Now today we're going to get some new tools that will help us further the stockpiling that we've started. We're now going to be able to talk to some more of the villagers, at least the ones that are around. Oh, sorry, Anna. Anna occasionally will give you daily quests. So if you ever see her requests in the mail, she's the little girl in Lechtonbury. There will be a few little girls that will have daily requests for you. We're just going through and talking to everybody that we can to get our reputation increase, since it's free and time isn't having any effect on our game right now. A lot of these flowers that you see are just decorations, so we can't pick them in the Lechtonbury town, but I do enjoy the springtime town with all of the colors and the flowers. Now, the scenes that we go through do not count towards reputation increase, so we have yet to actually get an increase with Doc, and I'm just running around to get all of the villagers increases while we can. Since this early in the game, or this early in the day for the game, we can tell where everybody is. Considering that we only have the general store, the restaurant, and Doc's lab open, there will be more shops that are open later once we are able to open up Lechtonbury to the wider world. Doc is the resident workshop owner. Every village is going to have something like a restaurant or an inn that'll provide you with recipes and food. They will have a workshop. Not all of them are as obvious as Doc's. They might look very similar to a general store. And then other stores that we will open up will be stores that provide additional crops, stores that provide like fishing items and tackle and bait. But this town is going to progress, and as it progresses and as you fix things, you will open up more businesses. Now that we have the pickaxe and the hammer, we're going to start breaking up all of the rocks. I am going to intentionally go around and hit all of the rocks that we're allowed to hit. I'm going to walk right into all of the boundaries, so we're going to be sent back to our farm over and over and over again. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is so that you can see how far you can get to access the rocks. Now, with the stone, we're not going to need as much as I gather for our quest, because it only needs the 5 stone and some of the iron ore. But a lot of this stone we can store away You use a lot of stone in rebuilding the towns as you fix the areas that you come across. There will be lots of destruction and lots of buildings that are broken, and it's up to us to do all of the repairs. So I'm basically just heading in this direction, but if you go too far into the corner, it's going to warp you back to your farm. So I just wanted to grab all of the stone so that you can see what ones you can get before it warps you. So this one in the back far corner, it's just out of reach, so it won't let you get it. And now we're back on our farm. So since we haven't unlocked the mapping feature yet, I am intentionally hitting all of the barriers so that you can see, kind of map out in your mind where everything is located. It will open up more of the areas for us to explore as we go through the tutorial and it needs us in different areas. I'm just wanted to point out that these rocks that look like they're just for decoration in the town, they are harvestable. You can break them down for stone. Now, all of the stone that I'm gathering, even though we don't need it now, we will need it in the future in a different form. So everything that we break down, it's going to be able to be processed by Doc or by one of the workshop owners into a more usable form. So for example, the stone will be processed into material stone, and the iron, instead of it just being a chunk of iron, they'll process it into a sheet of iron. Why they use sheets and they don't use bars, I don't know, but that's the way that all of the workshop owners process it. Sometimes processing the ores isn't as cost effective. Like, if you were to sell the material stone, you're pretty much breaking even for if you were just to sell a bunch of the raw stone because of the cost of the processing. Not all materials are that way. So one of the ways that you can earn money is through processing, for example, some of the gems that you don't need and having them cut into the more valuable gemstones that you can use to craft with, but you can also just sell the cut stone for far more than just the raw, say, ruby would be. Now, there's some things that even though you would make more money from... We're heading down this way because I wanted to show you there's mushrooms over here. We can't access them. We can't get that stone in the corner. But I just wanted to point that out so that you know where those are. The game is locking you off of these other areas to try to get you to go into the mine, which is the main focus for today. We are exploiting the fact that there is no stamina or time loss until we go through and gather everything aside from the mine. Now it's going to warp us over here, but I wanted to show you where that's at. If we go too far back that way, it's going to warp us again, so we're going to head this way. The areas that have a lot of rocks are going to be the areas that are open right now. It's the ones where the rocks are few and far between because it considers those areas unnecessary for the lesson it's teaching you today, I assume. Here's some new mushrooms. This is the mine right here. We're not actually going to go into it yet because we're still breaking all of these rocks and gathering the stone. You can see in the upper left hand corner of the screen there's some bamboo shoots. Those are also new forageable items that you can eat to increase your stamina. Now, gathering these items to eat are going to be very important for when we start going to the mine after the tutorial phase, because we're going to run out of stamina long before we get to the depths of the mine that we need to be in order to get the ore that we need. So being able to pick up every forageable item that we can eat before going into the mine, not necessarily today, but once the time and the stamina constraints go into effect, that will make us a little more better prepared for this. Now, I know that this is a lot of tedious hammering of stones. We aren't going to necessarily need all of this stone right away. We will use every single piece of these stones in upgrading, fixing, and requests from people. So don't feel like this is a pointless endeavor. The other thing that we can do, especially in the beginning of the game when we just don't have any items, we can sell some once shipping enables in order to both ensure that there is a reputation increase, but also to get money back. All of the reputation increases are going to be capped out at the beginning of the game until you progress along the storyline, the main story, long enough to open up the cultural levels of each town that we come across. Some will be completely locked out for quite a long period of time. We'll go over that as we hit each town. Now, that hole in the wall, that's the mine. During the tutorial, we can only hit the very first level. It will not let us go any deeper in the mine than the very first level. That is one reason why it's so important to gather food, because the deeper you go in the mine, the better the rewards and the more items that you can find in the mine. So one reason why we're breaking all the stone, gathering all the items before we go into the mine, is so that we've got a nice stockpile of things, and this is going to fill up our pockets. So we can't yet open up our inventory for me to show you where we're at. So we just keep going until it doesn't let us fill up our pockets anymore, and we want to empty those out into the storage before we go into the mine, so we have lots of space for all of the things we'll find there. Now, there is a rock that looks like it's a rock. This is actually a goddess statue. It will become useful in the future, but it doesn't matter right now in the tutorial. There's still some more forgeable items that we're going to come across once we finish up cleaning up these rocks. We may even end up having to store some of this stuff before we can pick up those forgeable items. So once we get this major amount of rocks, I might run into one of the stores, either the animal store, the general store, just so that I can throw things into storage real quick before my pockets fill up all the way. Now, the space that you have is divided into 3 different separate pockets that I've shown you when we went into the storage, but that means that you can fill each pocket separately, and you might have one that's empty and you might have one that's full, and you can't gather more of the one that's full and put it in the empty pockets. That's one thing that kind of irks me, but all of these separate storage spaces, they can be increased later on in the game, but they're increased per storage option, not necessarily all 3 at once, which is not my favorite, but it's a game dynamic to keep you working hard to increase your storage capacity. The storage capacity of your house where you can store items, eventually it will fill to the point where we don't have room because there are more items in the game than the initial storage provides space for. But you can build new storage, new fridge items. It's something that you can build it in it yourself once we open up our own crafting area. So here's where I think we should, just keeping mental track, we should be able to get these shiitake mushrooms. If we don't hit this rock, we might run the shiitake mushrooms we can pick up either way because that's a food item. It's the stone that we're running out of space for, if we're running out of space at all. The stone itself can be held into lots of 99. So just clearing off all of the space that we have. And Doc's office is actually a good place to stop because I forgot we didn't get his reputation bump yet. He does not have a storage area though, but talking to him without having all the items you need, you're going to want to do that on purpose because otherwise you don't get that increase to your reputation with him. Your friendship doesn't increase. You need to have that note pop up. So we're just going to go over here, just put away all of our stuff. We don't need any of the food this part of the game, but we will need it quite a bit later. So now we've got all of our pocket space completely opened. We've got all of the rocks broken, and they will come back in a few days, which is important because you're going to need lots and lots and lots of rocks and material stone. There is several daily requests for it too, so it's something you will always need. It's not something that you will just be able to be done with after a while. So we're going to go back over to the mine area. Now that we've harvested everything that we can, we've gotten as far as we can in the areas it lets us go. We need to stick to this side because if we try to go up the back side of that little hill, it's going to warp us back to the town, or back to our farm. The thing about mining in this tutorial phase is you're kind of blind in the mining here. So once we've got all of the mining capable tools, which we've only got the ones that we physically use. There's a tool that we will get later on that will allow us to basically go through and tell if there's something under all of this so that we're not digging blind. Unfortunately, right now, that's not the case. So since we have no idea where the things are in here, we're just going to go ahead and dig, and anything we find will pop out. Since there's no stamina loss, we can just gather all of the items and keep them for other things. Like that bronze will come in handy. Oh, there's another one. Bronze is not the easiest thing to find on the very first level, so we're pretty lucky in finding two. Now you can see it's this particular room does not have the capability of digging right next to the wall. And I would recommend just go ahead and dig the entire area. This is going to help us because we're going to need some bronze in building the town. And this is free and easy even though it's time consuming. The nice thing about being in the tutorial right now is until we talk to Doc with the things in our pockets that he wants in order to build his new tool, we have the whole day where we can go in and out of the mine over and over again, and it will reset every time, and we can just go through and clear out every space on here. Regular mining is not going to be like this. The regular mining is so much better than constantly just trying to randomly and blindly find, say, the way down, or find the ore hidden in the ground. But you can see we've filled every single spot here. We will go ahead and exit out of the mine. And one thing that we can just do again is go right back into the mine, do the same thing over again. The bronze, you're going to probably want quite a bit of. Not necessarily right away, but it's useful in daily requests, particularly from Neil. And also rebuilding some of the buildings in Lechtonbury. This is a free and easy way to collect some really early on in the game, and then you just have to have it processed by Doc before you hand it in. I wouldn't recommend necessarily spending too much time doing this. I'd say we'll do like 3 today, because we can do this again on the other days until they open up the stamina. And once they open up the stamina, we're going to do real mining, not this blind search for whatever happens to be under the first layer of dirt. Now, after you hit the rock one time, it doesn't let you hit the ground farther than that. The nodes are what they are called for the ones that have like the gem look to them, even though that's iron, and iron doesn't generally have a gem crystallized look. A lot of the gems are going to look exactly the same, so knowing what you are actually gathering is going to be dependent on where you're located in the mine. Especially when it comes to iron, there's several silver looking nodes that look very similar to each other. So to tell if it's an iron node, or say a silver node, or say a Damascus steel node, it just kind of depends on where you're located. Now each time you go in and out of the mine, it's going to reset the mine. And as you can tell from this one, it's a much larger area than that first run through, which is why I'm only going to go through it like 3 times. And that is mostly just in hopes to get a few bronze. We got a couple before. I would like to get probably about 5, but that's not a hard need, considering that bronze becomes much easier to locate farther down in the mine. You will not be able to find any silver on this first level of the mine. You have to get much farther down past the 11th level to start seeing silver, and then it'll only be a diggable resource. The nice thing about the mines is, like I said, once you hit level 11, it will give you a warp down. Every 10 levels is a fishing level, which will be useful once we unlock fishing. Now, in these mines, we are not going to waste our energy breaking down these big stones unless they're on top of something important. And it's just not worth the energy put in there. But doing it now means that we have extra stone that can help us with getting our items that we need for upgrading and repairs of places. So I'm just gonna... One thing that I like about farming and mining is that you can look down to see where you're working. But just to give you an idea of how big this one is, we started out with a very small mining system and ended up the second time with a very large one. So what you get is fairly randomized, and it can make getting deeper in the mine a bit of a challenge, which is why it's important when you're planning on doing a run to get farther down in the mine that you are preparing with a lot of food. And it doesn't have to necessarily be cooked food. Even the stuff that only provides you a small amount, you can gather in large batches. Like the mushrooms, will have a bunch of them by the time we're starting down the mines. We might take the entire stack with us and then go through them when we're doing a mining day. So we're not going to mine every day, especially because it's such a time suck at the beginning of the game. Even just going through looking for a few bronze here on the very first level, it's a time suck. Even though there's no time in the game, it still takes us a lot of time to go through and find it because this is so inefficient in our method of mining. Once we can kind of guess more closely where the items underneath the top layer are, it's going to make a big difference in how we mine. It'll be far more efficient than this. Now, there's a lot of questions that I get on where do I find this type of ore? Where do I find this type of ore? Chances are you will find it naturally if you just go into every mine. Sorry, it's a bit, you might hear in my voice a little bit, cold season is happening right now, so. But since I'm working 2 full-time jobs and I'm a mom of 2 younger kids, it just means that I don't have a lot of time. So I have to record when I can, not when my voice and my body are ready for it. This will be our 3rd and final time going through this. Then we're going to end this recording, and that'll be it for today's recording. Tomorrow we're going to have another find all of the things and break them down day. And they just tend to be longer. Now, once we unlock time, the days tend to be very, very quick. So I'm going to show you, once that happens, how we can slow down the time just a little bit, just so that we can get that extra bit of efficiency out per day. It won't make a huge difference necessarily, but it's the amount that we have control over. You could make it faster if you want to give yourself more of a challenge. I prefer taking it a little bit slower so I can get more done in the day than I normally would. Did I get all of that? Okay. In the lower right hand corner where we've got that empty dark screen, once we open up the map, it will help even in the mines for us to travel around, get an idea of where we're at. But that's going to be a while before we get that opened up. And when I say a while, it'll be a couple of in-game days. It doesn't really take that long. to open up the mapping feature. But, well, and I say a couple, it's going to not be within the tutorial time frame. Once we get out into the larger world, it opens up a lot of options for things that we can start doing that we couldn't do before. And it's just a part of the natural progression of the game. The farther that you go on the main story, the more abilities and things that you unlock, including the more stores. And as your culture level increases, your stores will increase the things that they offer. You'll know when you've hit a landmark because you will, not the same day, but the next day you'll have a bunch of mail for all of the stores announcing that they now are offering more varieties of items. Which is important because some of the stores, if you want to upgrade these tools so that they are less stamina use, easier to manage, and can break down rocks, nodes, and get deeper in the mine a little easier, or say catch larger fish, or say water larger areas at once, then you'll want to upgrade your tools. Now, Doc can upgrade several of the tools, but not all of them. Some of them you're going to have to unlock different towns to find the workshop owners, and then increase that town's culture level in order to get them to unlock the ability to increase and upgrade your tools. And part of that is going to be required for main game, so we'll go over that as we unlock it, but it's something that you can look forward to, especially considering how many times it takes for us to smash these rocks. So this will be the last time we go through here. We'll finish up with Doc. I will head back it will then warp us back to our room once we're done with our scene today, just like it has been. But I just wanted to show you that even with going through here 3 times just to gather enough bronze ore just for the first bit of what you're going to need, it's not that bad. It is kind of a grind. It isn't the funnest aspect of the game, just like how I've been breaking all of the stones. And there's plenty of people that don't play it this way, that just prefer to get on with it. They just have to work within the constraints of the time frame in order to upgrade. It takes them a little bit longer. Generally, when I play like this, I can get all 4 of my towns unlocked before the end of the year. They will not all be fully opened up, but they will all be available by the end of the first year, which is a lot harder to do if you don't spend the time gathering the resources right now that you can. In my opinion, it's far worth it, but not everybody is as patient as I am. And the important thing is, play it the way that you enjoy it. Don't worry about how I play it. If you want the longer days, I'll show you how to do that. If you want shorter days for more challenge, it's the same area that you go in, just go the other direction. Now we've gathered enough stone just from breaking the rocks that were in there that we don't need to make a stop at home. And we've got enough iron ore, because he only wants 1, that we can just go straight over to Doc's. Now, running around right now is very slow. We will get mounts that help us run more. There's also going to be an unlock when the stamina unlocks that allows us to dash. So this is going to be an example of how we do a turn-in. So we just basically turn in everything that it allows us to do. The 5 stone, 3 ore. I think I said he only needs 1, but I mean 1 node. I should have specified. 1 node will give you enough ore to pass in. And the first level always has 1 iron node when you go in there, so that you can just grab the iron and go if you don't want to go through and gather the other materials that I've been gathering. So now we've got these seeds. I'm going to immediately plant them. Since we've already got the tilled soil. And that will give us 1 extra day of growth. Even though it is bedtime, it is night outside. If I put them in right now, they will still have that 1 day's worth of growth. I'm going to start with the turnip seeds because they grow very quickly, and once we unlock the seeds, we don't have a very large plot of land here. And I want to free up some of that space for other seeds once we've unlocked the seeds. Now, if you really want to fertilize these, you can. This early in the game, it doesn't increase the growth, it increases the quality for just the regular fertilizer. So I would say just skip it, hang on to your fertilizer for when it's going to be more useful. And when you can start creating your own fertilizer. But now we've got all of our seeds planted. You can tell because I can't click on this and have anything available for planting. You could, if you want to get a head start on planting your flowers for the festival unlock, you could skip the cabbage because they take the longest, or the celery, since you don't technically need any of them. So you can see when we put away everything here, we've got several stacks of stone here. We've got 5 bronze ore, and then 32 iron ore, all of which are going to be used up faster than you will expect in rebuilding of the different towns. We still have our fertilizer, and now we've got 12 different items that can restore 1/2 of a heart if eaten raw. Now, because we weren't shipped immediately into our house, we can still go outside. But if you try to visit any of your neighbors, or say go to the restaurant, everything's going to be pretty much closed down. Since the time is locked. Oh, I guess the restaurant's still open. Yeah, I guess at 7:30 things are still open, but a lot of the things are not going to be available as much. Everybody just says the same stuff as the first time that you talk to them. But tomorrow it will unlock the restaurant, as well as a couple of things for our home. This is our barn that we are eventually going to want to open up and get repaired. So that is going to be it for today. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, feel free to comment. Please follow and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any suggestions on other content you would like to see from me, please feel free to let me know. I do try to answer all the questions as they come in, so if you have any questions that are game related, feel free to leave them below. Thanks and have a great day.